Hello everyone, Mike Arend here, founder of Infinite Success Academy. I wanted to talk to you today about something that I feel is so important to understand, but I feel is also so misunderstood. You see, we have two modes in which our brains operate. And I know you've probably heard this before, but hopefully I can present this in a way that makes some sense to you. Okay, so there's two modes our brains operate in, and they are simply put the default mode, which is sometimes called our subconscious mind, and the direct mode, which is also known as our conscious mind. The default mode is when we go through our day, basically on autopilot, going through the motions and daydreaming all at the same time. The direct mode is when you are actually present in the moment and concentrating on the task at hand, controlling what you're actually thinking about. Now, this usually takes place when learning a new task, for example. So there are those two modes in which our brains work. The default mode, where we go about repeating learned behaviors from the past, and the direct mode, where you are actively creating what you were thinking about. Obviously, the direct mode seems to be the mode we need to be in order to learn new things and move ourselves forward to become the best that we can be. However, it's a bit more difficult than that because using this mode is actually a skill and must be developed. Now, in order to start developing the direct mode, we must understand that it is a process, not a singular event. We can't just simply say that we are going to be more conscious because that won't work. From the ages of 0 to 7, your mind was thinking in delta and theta brainwaves and was actually like a hard drive that was recording all that was going on around it. Whatever environment you were exposed to was what you recorded. And then that becomes your default program that you run the rest of your life. Now, we are all born with this innate feeling of purpose, and we know deep inside that we came here for a reason. And you know you want to make changes in your life. You've got a lot you want to do in your life, but as soon as you stop to think about those changes, you immediately start to tell yourself, it's impossible. Who am I to think I could change my world? You start to think of all the reasons why it will never happen. This is just so common. I see it all the time. And in fact, I used to do the exact same thing. And it's really quite simple, and it's not your fault. The reason you think this way is because of the program you recorded at an early age, or because you've had so many bad things happen to you that now you actually predict that bad things are always going to happen to you. And unfortunately, I'm here to tell you that bad things will sometimes happen to you. That's just a fact of life. They will. But if you are constantly allowing your mind to default and think that bad things are always going to happen, or thinking you're fat, or thinking you're a loser, or thinking that you're not worthy, or thinking that things will never turn out, it's because your default program that is running all the time. And where do we spend 95% of our waking day? In our default program. And just in case you think I'm making all this stuff up, it's actually based on scientific studies. Scientists call it the default mode network, which is a series of neurons in our brains that has automated certain functions in our mind and body. And the reason we have this network is because there are so many things going on, like breathing, digestion, growing your fingernails, fighting infections, etc., that there is no way we could possibly do them all consciously. Why is this even relevant? Well, because the problem arises then when we think the same thoughts over and over, that they too become part of our default network, because the brain figures it needs to handle it too by default. So now you can change all this, but as I said earlier, it is a process, not a one-time event. So for example, we all know someone, or perhaps it's happened to you, who for some reason or another, usually an injury of some sort, needs to change from writing with their right hand to their left hand, or vice versa. And at first they try to write with their other hand, and it sucks big time. I mean, you can't even tell a human being wrote the words, right? But after a while, and with repetitive practice, the writing starts to improve until it actually may be better than with the original hand. So it's the exact same process that it takes for you to become from somebody that's constantly thinking negative garbage to someone who thinks directly. So just as you had to deliberately tell yourself to grab that pen with your left hand instead of your right hand, You need to switch your thoughts from what you used to default to things that are very direct and deliberate, such as thoughts that are very positive, optimistic, supportive, and that are full of possibilities. Now, this is the work of changing the patterns of your mind. And make no mistake, folks, it is work. There is just no other way you can do it, and you can do it just like you could teach yourself to write with the other hand. Autopilot is great, and it's helpful for many of our day-to-day tasks, but once it grabs a hold of your constant barrage of negative thoughts, it records them and lays them down in a new program, and then it runs them automatically, whether you like it or are aware of it or not. Now, I know, once again, you've all heard it before, but it is absolutely true. If you can change the way you think, you can change your life. And I believe the way you think is a choice. You can either repeat all those negative patterns of thinking that have been holding you back, or you can take the next step and evolve your thoughts. I know I said earlier that absorbing all the data from others was not your fault, and that stands true. But what is your fault is knowing this now and still resorting to your old way of thinking. And don't you dare try to blame anyone else, because you are 100% responsible for what's happening to you right at this very moment, including watching this video. If it sounds like I'm trying to convince you to become a more deliberate thinker, it's because I am. The evidence is overwhelmingly in favor of all those successful people that have gone before you. They didn't let negative thoughts stop them, nor did I. And I appear before you as someone who has lived this shift from default to direct thinking. And if I can do it, you can do it too. So the way that you reprogram the default way of thinking so the default becomes more positive, more courageous, and more loving is, first, you must take notice and catch your negative default thinking. And second, you then instantly switch it to a positive direct thinking. So instead of thinking, no one likes me, you catch yourself and think, the right people love me. If you say, I'm too old, which I personally have been guilty of, you need to switch that to, I have plenty of time. Or, I have so much experience, I'm definitely going to succeed. Or if you say, I'm too young, switch that to, being young is an advantage. Or, I have plenty of time to learn what I need to learn. The point is, the moment that you catch yourself thinking those negative default thoughts, you must instantly recognize that fact and quickly switch it to positive direct thinking. Now, remember that this is a process, not an event, so it will take time to master. But soon you'll find yourself doing it automatically without even thinking about it, because those positive direct thoughts will now be part of your default mode network. Give it a try for 30 days and see how much your life has changed. If you do, I'm sure you'll be on your way to call what we call a successful life. Bye for now.